Captioning, it's something we all need to know about, particularly if we are live video streaming or producing video and content to the web, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you're in new media, whether you're in both. There's a way that you can get more people involved, people that may not be able to hear you or understand what you're saying, by providing them another way to digest your content. We're going to be talking about that with a captioning expert that we have here with us at Telestream. I'm very excited to have him on the show today. So we'll be diving in all about captioning and what you need to know about it. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good show, and I hope to see you right after the credits. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, and I'm pleased to bring this show to you live every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or Periscope on our Wirecast channels. And if you'd like to subscribe or follow us on social media to catch these episodes, please check us out at Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, at Wirecast on Twitter, and WirecastTube, or just Wirecast on YouTube. Any of those will find us. You can subscribe, follow, or hit the like button. Please share this out with people that you think might find it useful. We like to provide you tips from the latest news, to bringing on content and area experts to share information with you, and things that we may not necessarily know everything about. One of those topics, for example, is captions. It's something that I'm not necessarily the world's greatest expert in, so I try to go out and find people for you that I can talk to and we can interview on the show. And today we have a great one, Giovanni Galvez. He's going to be joining us from our offices out on the East Coast, and I'm super excited to interview him. I think it's going to be a really interesting interview, and we'll talk a lot about live captioning, captions, the different kinds, subtitles, what are the differences, and how do you caption for social media? That's the main topic for today that he and I will be talking about. And of course, this is a big topic, more than we could probably cover on the show just in a half hour, but we'll get into as much as we can. Afterwards, I'll also be doing a live learning session on captions with Wirecast and what you can do to do some, workarounds if you're interested in how to caption your live Wirecast shows and so forth. So it's going to be a good show. If you want to catch this show and everything else coming up, actually that link just disappeared from the screen, you can subscribe to our email list. We will send you a link to your inbox and you can click on it and it will take you directly to the live show. We send out a reminder right before the show each week, so it's a great way to check in and catch the show. And if you're curious about that, you can head over to www.telestream.net/WirecastLive and sign up for the email list. That's probably one of the most reliable ways to catch the show, particularly if you prefer an email notification or update. All right, so a couple of news and announcements. We have next week, I'll be taking actually 2 weeks off for the show. I'll be back in the beginning of September, and we will have a guest presenter on the show. We had one last week with Lucas Bischofberger, who talked all about ScreenFlow and Wirecast. Next week, Leslie Samuel will be guest hosting this show, and I'm really excited. I think he's a great host, and I think you'll have a really good time with him. He's got a good topic. He's going to be talking about how to use live video to grow your blog and how to use your blog to grow your live video audience. So should be a really good topic. He's very knowledgeable, and he will also be hosting the following show on August 30th. So stay tuned for both of those, and he has a surprise guest that he'll be bringing on for the 30th show. So should be 2 good shows for you. I hope you will enjoy those and check them out, and I will be kind of hard at work here in the office doing some stuff and running around on some extra assignments. So take a moment to put those on your calendar and stay tuned for those. I think you'll like them. And I think that is it for the moment. I just want to take a moment to say hi to folks who might be joining us on our different platforms. Let me pull up the YouTube one and just see who is joining us. I see on Facebook we've got Lutz, great to see you. And Lutz, I hope we see you out at IBC. So we should be, stop by the booth again. That would be great to see you. And I see Gunnar has joined us, and Trevor and a couple others as well. And then on YouTube, I want to see if anybody else is tuning in to say hello. Just shout out, leave a comment, say hi, say where you're watching from, and I'll try to get to the comments. And of course, if you have questions for me or Gio during the show, please type them in, and we will try to bring them up or address them a couple times throughout the interview. Without further ado, I would like to bring on my guest for today, Giovanni Galvez, a product manager here at Telestream, and joining me live from the West Coast on our Skype machine via our new tech talk show. So, Gio, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show and to talk about the topic that's my favorite topic to talk about, captions.
Yeah, this is definitely in your wheelhouse. This is your day job, right? So we, at Telestream, there are a few people that we know that we go to talk about when we have questions about captions, and your name is one of the top ones that come up every time. So, Gio, how did you get started in captioning? What's your background in this?
Well, that's if I think back, like the first time I did captioning was when I was working post-production, and I was in charge of compression and multimedia, specifically DVD authoring, and that was my first exposure to closed captions. We had a really high-end DVD authoring system, and all of a sudden a customer would contact us at the post house and say, hey, I really need this captioned and subtitled, this DVD that you're making. So I'm sure, like other folks who are watching right now, if they're new to captions, that turned into this whole research project of how do I make that work? Like, what kind of files do I need? What kind of software do I need? And how can I then test it to make sure it's right before giving it to the customer? And that just evolved into what I do now for a living, and that is I help develop the software, and I work with major broadcasters as well as post houses to show them exactly how everything works and how to make it done, do things in captioning and subtitling efficiently, quickly, and of course economically.
Yeah, and so that is, and you've seen every sort of titling or subtitling and captioning workflow under the sun at this point. I think you are constantly working with everyone from small guys to churches to and houses of worship to museums to major broadcasters and everyone in between. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that captions that you see frequently in captioning, and maybe back up a step there and talk a little bit about, I think it's kind of obvious, but why do people need captions? What are they useful for? And why do you get so many questions about them?
Yeah, they're both kind of related, those two topics, like why people use them, and also like what are the challenges, and just to tell you about why it usually is a requirement here in the United States as well as in other countries like Canada and now Mexico, and abroad. We see that government is actually asking broadcasters to caption all of their videos that they're going to air. And here in the United States, the broadcasters are also asked to caption their online videos. So it's the law, no one wants to get in trouble for not being compliant to accessibility requirements from the government. And it goes beyond, broadcasters, houses of worship, as well as government and EDU. They, military, they're required by different regulations to be accessible. Just like, a school has to have like handicap parking spaces or ramps for people with wheelchair. They also have to have accessibility in their media, which is kind of like a more 21st century type of situation, right? And the challenge is really the biggest thing that people come to me out is how much is it going to cost, right? All of a sudden they have maybe a budget, maybe they're exceeded that budget, or maybe they're really tight with that budget, and all of a sudden falls into their lap a requirement to add another expense to that budget, and it revolves around making your video accessible. So that's a big challenge. Of course, then there's the technology challenge, which we can talk about specifically on for certain people's workflows, whether they're doing live or pre-recorded captions. But really, it's the cost, and in some cases, the turnaround time as well. Sometimes people shoot their video, they need to get it turned around and delivered and edited like the same day, and that can incur additional costs and sometimes have people working overtime to just get the captions done. So yeah, absolutely, the cost is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think that those challenges are pretty. I mean, you did a good job of covering everything that that people are faced by these days, and it continues to be, whether you're small scale or large scale. I think that you often see some of the same types of problems, right? Just the getting word accurate captions in at real time and real speed can sometimes, historically required a person a stenographer typing on a specialized keyboard into a specialized machine and feeding those in. And what's exciting, I think, these days is that through AI technologies, voice recognition, speech to text, and so forth, some of these sort of barriers to entry and captioning are really closing some gaps that used to be pretty insurmountable just for small people. And so even though you have these regulations that you talked about that's actually required by law in the U.S., it's becoming the regulators, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, have kind of tried to strike a balance between the law and the regulations and provided some nice rollout periods for people, recognizing that not everybody could necessarily get, totally accurate captions in real time on every scale of media or content production. So I think that has been a big. I think they've really sort of been conscious of that. And then now with the rise of these AI technologies and speech-to-text technologies, we can really start to see more and more people have access to quality captions and captioning in across a broader range of media, right?
Well, yes, you mentioned a few things there. The key thing is volume, right? So depending on your volume, you really are going to have to figure out how to quickly get things done. If you're doing, like, say, 100 hours a week of content, versus, like, say, you're only, captioning a single show every month, that, makes it so that a manual task can be possible and you're still able to meet your deadline. But when you're talking about high volume for, say, television networks, certain folks in different fields and industries, that becomes a thing that you have to automate, absolutely. And by the way, you mentioned court reporters. That's still the standard. When you're watching a sports show on TV, like the Super Bowl or the NCAA finals or something on live television, there is court reporters that they hire to do that. That's still the standard. What we're seeing here is, depending on the content, certain AI that can do speech to text can now, get the accuracy almost to that point of a human being. But it depends on the content, right? For example, if you're doing a cartoon show, right, where you have characters with unnatural voices, like, say, a giraffe, or you're trying to sound like a rhinoceros or something like this, that's not a natural voice. So something like that could confuse an AI, and the accuracy would go down. But if you have good microphones, when you are on topic, you're not going into real deep acronyms or names, foreign names, and so forth like that, then absolutely, automatic speech recognition can become a viable option for your content to get captions quickly and automatically. Then there's also the technology limitation. And briefly, I'll just cover that, not to get too much into the weeds. But, there's a lot of CPU power that is involved in turning speech to text, right? Especially if you have like an hour-long video. If you were to process that locally on your computer, it's not gonna be real time. It's gonna be really slow. That's what it's gonna do. So it could take you hours to get the results. But now we have AI in the cloud. We see things like IBM Watson, and we see Google's of the world, where they have cloud processing for automatic speech recognition. And so they have, this massive, rooms of computers that they can harness the power, so you can get really fast results. And you're no longer limited to how fast your computer is to get the transcript quickly.
Right. And I actually will show that hopefully a little later during the demo portion or during the learning session. Let's talk real quick about, and I think that your point about the fact that at this time, AI, while it's good, still can't replace a human when it comes to understanding context, difficult to understand voices, things like that. Like there's still, you just can't beat a good stenographer or court reporter who has all that learning behind them of understanding the nuances in language and speech and tone and inflection and metaphors and jokes and so forth. So, and I think people will see that as I demo some of the speech to text on using Google's speech to text in a captioning software, and then show that how the transcript is not, usually it doesn't have it's accurate, but it's not amazing. It's not as good as a person is at this point.
That's a good point. And in fact, there's also kind of like a middle ground where you get the transcript and then you can use professional captioning software to then edit it, right? Mm-hmm. Punctuation is an issue with a lot of AI out there, auto transcription. So if you can have someone proofread it, that's still going to be pretty fast, as opposed to having them type. I personally am not a fast typist, but I can proofread, a document really easily. I know how to do it. Most people can kind of skim through it, find the problem parts. So there's kind of if you want the 100% accuracy for pre-recorded video, there's a way to just review it in a nice captioning interface. Because remember, reviewing text is one thing, but reviewing text on screen is a whole nother animal. That you have to make sure things are within the frame of the video. That's called title safe. Can't go beyond that, otherwise it just goes off the screen. You can't fill your entire screen full of text. It has to be kind of at the bottom, not blocking the important things on screen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely. There's also the skill set of understanding how to manage that, quickly,
right,
and not make those mistakes.
Yeah. So, and when you talk about software like that, it's obviously software. I'm sure what's coming to mind for you is the software that you're a product manager of, which is like the Mac Caption and Caption Maker software that we make. And I'm not an expert in that software by any means, so I definitely would like to have you on or do some more content with you, or so you can show people kind of how that works when you have a little more time. I know you're a bit busy right now with some other stuff, but I think it would really help people. Today during the learning session after the show, I will actually have Matt Caption here, and at least we'll pull it up and show some folks like a little bit that I know about it. But it is definitely designed for that, to help people quickly proofread and time out captions and make them look good, and then produce a file that is or a caption file that you need to go where it needs to go. So let's definitely put a pin in that and come back to it, because I'd love it if you could kind of give people more of a tour and a hands-on with it when we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I'm always happy to help and share whatever captioning knowledge I can, if it helps anyone out there that's struggling with this topic. Another thing about captioning is that, it's seldomly taught in school. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like,
That's true.
If you take, like a really great course on filmmaking or video editing or communications, at some of the top universities, captioning is not something that like come out with as part of the curriculum. Mm-hmm. I can't say that for everyone. There are some courses I've heard of, but more than likely you come out and you graduate, and then all of a sudden you're kind of scratching your head. about how all this works. So part of I think my mission as product manager is also to help share my knowledge with anyone. And of course, back to the actual authoring side of it, right? You mentioned people that want to create the transcript. That's one thing. But a lot of times, pre-recorded video already has a transcript.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a customer who, they just use a prompter, right? So everything's already written out. They don't need to generate the text again. So when that's the case, there's a way to use speech to text to also automatically synchronize that text to the video, to the spoken word. And that's almost kind of like another side of speech to text that a lot of people don't know. And as you know, a lot of shows, TV shows, are already scripted.
Right.
So it's a matter of just getting that script and utilizing it, and then you can automatically synchronize it and automatically make it title safe. So there's other automation around captioning that doesn't necessarily involve just generating the text.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And actually, we'll talk about that when we talk a little bit more about caption makers. So let's segue into just a quick discussion about captions and the types of captions and versus, say, subtitles. So can you first tell us what's the difference between captions and subtitles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to be completely honest, it varies from country to country. That's one difference. In Europe and in Asia, it's almost always referred to as subtitles. In the United States, we make more of a distinction, and we call it closed captions versus subtitles. And since we happen to be in the United States, I want to make that clear, the distinction. And really, it boils down to, for me at least, closed captions are they have a more strict guideline as how they need to be formatted, and that has to do with a specification called CEA 608. And CEA 608 is the style of captions that you see when you watch television. So there's already guidelines about how they need to be formatted, how many characters there can be per line, and et cetera, et cetera. There's only limited characters that you can have. So to me, that's closed captions, something that meets the 608 spec. And as far as the internet's concerned, that becomes more of a gray area, because in the internet, you can call it captions, but it doesn't necessarily have to meet this. But so if you look at the way broadcasters are addressing that, just to be consistent, they're just following the formatting from television, and they're emulating that formatting on the internet just to be consistent. So if you're watching a TV show with captions on TV versus on your cable box versus on your smartphone, and you turn on the captions, broadcasters want you to have the same experience, right? They want to make sure that, like, if the text is on the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen for a particular scene, when let's say there's a dragon breathing fire, that you don't block that. And so no matter what you're watching and whatever screen you're watching it, you're going to get that level of accessibility.
Right.
As far as subtitles are concerned, it used to be, back in the days of just films, when there wasn't television, subtitles used to be burned in. So they were just on the screen. You couldn't turn them on and off with a remote control. So that's still the case. That's called burn-in subtitles. But as far as the other things of subtitles that I can say the distinction is, like, say, in the case when you buy a Blu-ray, some people still buy Blu-rays and DVDs, and the subtitles can have custom fonts. Like they can have really custom formatting. In the case of say a Japanese language subtitle, they'll even have formatting that's vertical as well as horizontal. And that to me is something that you can't do with closed captions, right? It's a specific subtitle advanced formatting. So you could say that subtitles are more freeform. They can support just about any type of graphic element that you can think of, well, as captions, is very constrained and really focused on accessibility. A lot of times people say, hey, I don't like the black box around my captions. I think that's not stylish, but actually it serves a purpose. And that is because it's supposed to also help people that have vision problems, right? And when you have that black box and you have this big, ugly white text, well, it might be big and ugly, but it's also legible for a lot of folks. And so it's the captioning to me. It's accessibility is the priority, not so much style in the case of subtitles.
Got it. Okay. So and then is there any regulation around subtitles, or is all the regulation around captioning?
Yes, of course. There is some regulations abroad. I would say more than anything. In the UK, for example, they refer to teletext subtitling, as well as in South America, they're switching to a subtitle mechanism. So yes, absolutely. But that has to do more with the local government, right, for that particular country.
And when they say teletext subtitling, are they really? I mean, for them, they might be. What for them is subtitles, or is really for us captions. Really, they're kind of referring to the same thing. Yeah. So it's a little. It's like soccer and football. Or something like that. Like, in America, we have rules or regulations around soccer, and over there, they have rules or regulations around football, but we're really talking about the same
I was
thing.
just in Australia, and, I ran into that, with certain types of customers. I had to, not call it closed captions because that kind of confused it. If I could just say teletext subtitles, they get exactly what I mean.
Right. Okay. And so the captioning, teletext subtitling regulations will vary from country to country, government to government a little bit, region to region. But when we in the U.S. refer to subtitles and what you would find as on like a DVD or something like that, that's a little more free form. That's less constrained to accessibility regulations, and that in general is true across the world. What we would call subtitles.
And you see more and more of that. Like actually, most viewers don't really pay attention to the style of the subtitles. They're just happy they're there.
Right.
And that includes people that even use them for accessibility. Like for some reason, like I remember I met with folks from a university here in D.C. called Gallaudet University, and for some reason in my mind, I was like, oh, everyone, must understand all the different nuances of captioning just because they use it so much. But no, it's just, it should be almost transparent to the viewer, and not, literally transparent, but it should just be where they can rely on it, and it's something that they don't really think about or disturbs the programming.
Right. It's unobtrusive, but still legible, readable, and accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's really another aspect of it.
There's sort of an art. If you're doing your job right, you're almost not really noticed or just taken for granted. If good captioning makes sense.
Well, I think the best example I can tell you as far as subtitles that people would absolutely seen before is in social media. You have when you have videos, like you'll see like the burn-in subtitles, and sometimes within that one of the subtitles will just pop when there's an exclamation or something.
Right.
So literally someone did that effect in like an editing system, and so that absolutely is in closed captions. You can't turn it on and off.
Yeah, so let's talk. Let me just show you guys an example of closed captioning real fast. So I think, Deborah Lee, if you have the shot available, we actually have a burned-in open caption, system that's running, and it's not going to catch your voice right now, but it at least is catching mine through my microphone here in the studio, a second microphone that I've set up. And you can see it's pretty accurate, but if we were to throw this on screen, and with me and behind it or whatever, and if we were to plug Gio's voice into it, you could see that this would be an example of open captions or burned in captions, and we're not really following any particular formatting with this and rules and regulations. So this is just really a run and gun running transcript that the Google Voice is using at the moment. But it's just an example of what it would look like. Not necessarily stylistically the best thing, if you're going for unobtrusive, but it's a start. And I'll show you guys how to do this a little later.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's a really nice thing. Another issue with burn-in subtitles like that is like right now, like for example, the bandwidth where I am is not as fast as where you are for whatever reason. And I'm seeing pixelation around some of the text.
Right.
Right. And so that makes some of the text somewhat not legible simply because of the streaming.
Because it's encoded into the pixels of the video itself.
That's right. And if I blow up the screen full size, it becomes even softer. And in captions, it's a vector, right? So no matter how big or small the screen is, they're going to be super crystal clear.
Well, that's a great segue into Sidecar files and social media captioning, because as we said, there's a way to burn it into the video, and then there's this other way, which is providing caption data as a separate element to the video file or to as a sidecar file, which really just means another file that you send in or submit with the video itself, and then the player reads both, right?
That's right. Yeah, most players, at least for most standard players, can do it for sure.
So talk a little bit about sidecar files and what they mean for people that might be streaming to YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, Twitter. Like what do we mean by that? How do you
Sidecar
get them?
files really, it fits into the workflow of pre-recorded video, not so much with live.
Okay.
So if I were to upload a video to Facebook or Vimeo or YouTube, I would first upload the video, and then within my upload settings, you'll find something that has to do with subtitles or captions. In which case, you would then upload the secondary subtitle or caption file that's associated to that video. And this file is basically something that a professional subtitling or captioning system can export, such as the one from Telestream.
That was my next question. I mean, are we talking like, is it a TXT file that's just a blah, like just the words, or is it a specially formatted file? And is that different from platform to platform?
That's a good question. So no, I'm talking about something that's really specific of formatting. In some cases, it can be something as complicated as just hexadecimal code.
Wow.
That a professional captioning system would generate. Or it could be a TTML with header information, timing, and positioning for each line. It could be something as simple as an SRT that just has timing in and out and the text with no positioning, right? You see less and less people using SRT because it doesn't, give you the same accessibility level that some of these more advanced subtitle and caption files give you, right? So each one has its own spec. To me, the subtitle caption file of the future is going to be TTML.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that because I like it better.
So is TTML stands for time text markup language?
Yes.
Okay.
TTML is time text markup language, which essentially is an XML with header information, font, colors, and it just has all the bells and whistles needed to render the subtitles or captions the way you want.
So it's got style. So basically, it's telling the player or whatever's rendering out the captions. It's telling it the style information, the font information, the size and position, and then the timing.
That's right. It has all of this information.
Is there anything that it's missing that because you said it's not necessarily your favorite, but you see it as just the one that's getting adopted?
Yeah, I think one thing that's missing is, for example, support for vertical text. That's supposed to be coming. Okay. There's a working group, W3G. You can look it up. It's a spec called IMSC, and that's the spec, I believe, of the future, which is based on the main TTML spec. Okay. Right. Not to get into the weeds too much, it's basically like you have to support the formatting for the entire planet. right? And there's
That's a
certain
challenge.
languages, yeah, there's certain languages that want specific, really advanced formatting. And Japanese is one of them. They want the vertical text, and they want something called Ruby characters, which is basically like you have a main character here, right? And then there's like a little footnote on the very top of the character.
Mm,
That footnote is called a Ruby,
mm,
and so that has to be supported. I've seen iTunes supported
mm-hmm,
via their special brand of TTML called ITT,
mm-hmm.
which stands for iTunes Time Text.
Okay. Interesting. So, what social media platforms at this point support TTML files?
Well, I haven't been on every single social media site, but the ones that come to mind is Facebook, YouTube, and you see Vimeo supporting it.
Okay.
Or I guess if you want to call Vimeo a social media site. There
Still.
are some that don't
Mm-hmm.
support it at all, like Twitter.
Twitter
They,
has.
they
Does
don't.
Twitter have any subtitle sidecar support?
No, they don't.
Okay.
So if you're going to put a video on Twitter, you have two options with captions. You can either link to a YouTube video, right? And then it would either go into YouTube or give you a portal window, or you can burn it in, which is what a lot of people are doing.
Got it.
So if you burn in the subtitles, then you can publish to every social media site, and at least they have the accessibility.
Right. Cool. Okay. So, and then again, just to reiterate, the best way to generate your own TTML file is to use a professional captioning solution that basically takes a transcript and then compares it to a video and converts or automatically formats that transcript into the correct TTML format.
Well, absolutely, it's important to have a professional tool,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're doing it or you're hiring like a company to do it. So most people actually hire a company to do it for them.
Okay.
They either feel that they're just understaffed to bring it in house, or they feel like, well, we can justify the expense and we have a budget, so they'll hire a service company to do the subtitles and captions for them professionally, using more than likely one of our tools. We seem to be the common denominator there. But what it is even if you're doing that, it's super critical to have a professional captioning tool, because what if you need to change something in your video at the last minute?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have time to call the company you're using and say, hey, I made a change. And you can try, but we're talking about more than likely they're not going to be able to get to it till the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go in there and troubleshoot. Or what about if they misspelled something in a name that's really critical,
Mm-hmm.
or they're blocking a graphic that you just added in your editing system?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to fix it right then and there. And we also see that softwares like Adobe, they've added some support for captioning editing in their timeline.
Cool. Well, I think that makes sense. Where can people get more resources around this to kind of get started? If somebody's like a Wirecast user, or they're streaming to Facebook or social media platforms, and they're like, I want to be able to produce better captions, more accurate captions for my audience.
Yeah.
What do they do? Where do they go to find out more about this?
Well, there's a couple of places. Certainly on telestream.net,
Okay.
our website, we have under the captioning products, either Mac Caption or Caption Maker, there's a resource tab. And in that resource tab, we have several white papers that talk about a lot of these topics.
Let me pull up that real fast on screen so people can you can see that and people can find this. So I'm gonna pull up my desktop here, and so I just go to products, go to captions or Mac Caption Maker, right?
That's right.
And just hit the learn more. Okay.
And within that, you'll be able to see something that says resources.
Okay. The resources, we try to include that on all our product pages for any of our products.
Exactly. And
Ooh,
there
tons of
you'll
white
see video
papers.
tutorials
Yep.
that I personally made to
Okay.
show how to use it. And then there's the literature and white paper
Okay.
where you can really, dive into things like internet captioning, TTML. We even have like something about how, what's the best computer. Some people, say, well, hey, I want to do the captioning. What kind of computer should I get, And so we'll talk about some of these things as well.
Cool.
So
Okay. Yeah, this is a wealth of information. Is there a particular one you'd recommend for somebody who's just starting out, like the getting started? Well, that's probably with the software. Is there a white paper or something you'd recommend for beginners?
I think the one to take charge of your closed captioning is a really good one. That's a recent one.
Where is that?
That's the third one from the top.
Third one from the top. Take charge of your closed captioning. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can register, and we can reach out to you, and you can even talk to one of our dedicated captioning team people. We're one of the few companies in the world that has a dedicated captioning team, and it's not just me. Okay, we have like a whole team of people that's all they do all day long, every single day. They deal with captions. They help people with captions. So it's very hard to stomp us.
Cool.
So we absolutely would welcome you to reach out to us if you really need some answers.
Sweet. Well, this is a little preview of the ebook for folks that but you can check this out for yourself. Go to the Telestream website. Anything else? I think we have some links that you sent us, Gio. We can put those in the chats. Let me forward that to Trevor in case he's got he can pop that into both platforms, or Deborah Lee can for folks that want to.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the links is just linking to the SEC website for broadcasters.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, let me just grab that
they
real
want
quick.
to,
I think I can do it.
Look at the most recent regulations around quality and timing. That's going to be the most updated thing right on FCC.gov.
FCC captioning. Okay. Great. Well, that link's in the chat on Facebook and Twitter. So thank you for sharing that. Gio, it's time has flown. We've gone about 45 minutes here, and I don't want to take up any more of your time or the viewers. I would like to get on to show them a little bit of some practical tips, but I think we should definitely have you on again and dive in some more on this, because I know you have some really cool AI-centered captioning stuff coming up that we could show and talk about. So that'll be exciting. I think we should have you on when to talk about that, and maybe do a hands-on demonstration of captioning a video and what to look for a little bit, if you're up for that.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure.
Okay. Well, we will definitely do this again soon then. So where can people reach out to you, or if they have questions or want to learn more, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
You can absolutely send me an email.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Giovanni G at telestream.net, and I'm always happy to help. And if I'm not around for whatever reason, or if I'm traveling, I will forward your question to one of my teammates.
Cool.
From the caption team.
Well, thank you so much, Gio, for doing this, and let's do it again soon. And good luck with what you're working on, and hopefully we'll be able to find out more about it soon.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate this time.
Oh, my pleasure. And so thank you. We'll have you again soon. Take care and have a good evening.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, so that was Gio. Sorry if we kind of went a little long there. I just didn't want to, it was really good stuff. Gio had a lot of great information, and I hope that was really helpful, particularly talking about the TTML language and different social media platforms, sidecar files. We talked a little about captions versus subtitles, burn-in versus closed caption. There's a lot of great stuff. I think the resources Gio pointed out are probably the best place to kind of start cruising around and clicking and to learn more about this. Clearly, Gio's an expert. His team is full of experts. In fact, some of the technologies they've developed and the standards they've developed have been recognized industry-wide as subtitle and captioning standards. So pretty cool stuff to have him and work alongside with him and his team here at Telestream. So we will definitely bring them on again if that's something you guys would like. I certainly think there's a lot more to talk about there. Okay, just a reminder, you can subscribe to our email list if you'd like to catch the next shows. You can follow us on social media, so we'll do that. The Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, Wirecast on Twitter, and Wirecast Tube on YouTube. We also have an email subscription list you can follow us and find or sign up for at telestream.net/WirecastLive. We'll send you a link, and you can click on that every Thursday about this time. And coming up next week, we have a show with a guest host. Actually, the next 2 weeks in a row will be guest hosted by Leslie Samuel, an excellent live host and blogger. And he'll be talking about how to grow your live video audience through your blog, or vice versa, how to grow your blog through live video. So nobody knows that better. And then the following show, end of the month, will be a special episode. And he has not announced what the topic will be yet, so we'll keep you posted. I'm sure he'll let you know what that is next week. And of course, if you're subscribed to us, we'll send you an update and let you know what that is. All right, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the show. I say sponsors, but also I mean partners here. We'll call it here. So thanks so much, guys. Stick around if you want to catch the live learning session on how to do some captioning tips with Wirecast, live captioning tips. It should be a fun, quick learning session. All right. I will see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.